Module 2, the Neolithic period and the pre-Shang dynasty, circa 5000 to circa 1700 BCE. I, Dr. Rita Pratap, former head of the Department, Drawing and Painting, University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. The uncovering of many thousands of sites throughout China has overturned earlier assumptions that Chinese Neolithic culture was confined to central heartland and has confirmed wide range of Neolithic cultures. Production of Neolithic painted pottery wares began and died out at different times in different parts of China. This painted pottery culture expanded early eastward to the Yangshao. More slowly, it extended to the west as far as Gansu and Shanghai provinces. Later, Gansu painted pottery sites such as Banshan have yielded astonishing quantities of boldly potted full-blown jars. The Neolithic culture of eastern China, whose earliest remains date from about 4300 BCE, culminated in black pottery or Longshan culture, which extended from Shandong to the west to Henan province and has been dated as early as 2700 to 2500 BCE. In Henan, black pottery remains lie above and hence are later than artifacts of the Yangshao painted pottery culture. In the region of the present-day Henan province, the invention of metrology and the emerging photography writing systems converged with the whole assemblage of Neolithic capabilities, pounded earthworks, intricate jade working, high and humble ceramics in distinctive Chinese shapes, a growing vocabulary of symbols and ornament, and a developed art of divination which prepared the imagination for mastery of these complex and potentially powerful elements invented and developed by the Chinese Neolithic culture. The Neolithic period and the pre-Shang dynasty, circa 5000 to circa 1700 BCE. In the beginning of 1928, a systematic excavation transformed the Shang dynasty from myth to historical reality, and continuing excavation has fleshed out a picture of evolution of Shang life and bronze technology. Few decades before, archaeology has also revealed a pre-Shang bronze working tradition that may well correspond to hitherto for legendary Xia dynasty dated to 2205 to 1766. The earliest stages of bronze technology at least antedate to 1600 BCE. Hard evidence for the pre-Shang Xia people referred to in Chinese records Irilitou between Luoyang and Changchao in northern Henan province has yielded not only the ceramics and worked jades but also simple, thin, walled bronze vessels which can be seen as Xia prototypes for the developed and complex Bronze Age artifacts of the Shang dynasty. Archaeology has also afforded a broad and complex picture of Neolithic China. The uncovering of many thousands of sites throughout China has overturned earlier assumptions that Chinese Neolithic culture was confined to central heartland and has confirmed wide range of Neolithic cultures. New finds have identified at least 5 extensive geographical distinct pottery producing regions, which include the Henan Shaanxi heartland, the northwest principally Gansu province, the east and northeast including Liaoning, the eastern coastal plain as far south as northern Zhejiang province, Fujian, Jiangxi and Guangdong province, whose ceramics seem more closely related to those of Neolithic Southeast Asia. The cultures of these regions in turns diffused over time and space, influencing their successors and their near and distant neighbors. The same finds have also shown that jade working was a major hallmark of certain of these Chinese Neolithic culture. It is often thought that Chinese civilization is of immense antiquity, far older than that of Egypt or Mesopotamia. But in fact, China did not begin to emerge from the darkness of prehistory until the middle of the second millennium BC. Before that time, the most advanced of China's communities were still living in the Stone Age. Painted pottery culture. Production of Neolithic painted pottery wares began and died out at different times in different parts of China. Probably it arose first in Henan Shaanxi heartland, especially the area encompassing Yangshao in Henan province and Banpo in Shaanxi, China, part of excavated village now preserved as Banpo Museum, Neolithic period Yangshao culture dated to circa 4000 BCE. Banpo village was situated on a protected bland of Vi River in what is now an eastern suburb of Hesia. Its inhabitants lived in pit dwellings, at first conical, later round, oblong or square, with peaked reed roofs. They produced a great number of pots painted with black on red designs of geometric figures, human masks, fish and occasionally animals. An example of a bowl painted pottery, red earthenware with black slip decoration, Banpo Shaanxi, China, Neolithic period Yangshao culture dated to circa 4000 BCE and at present in the Banpo Museum. It is often found that these naturalistic motifs are geometrically rendered or combined with geometric motifs or at times both. The mask motif was found in slightly different variations on bowls of the pen type, on broad-shouldered storage jugs and on pointed amphora of the Yangshao culture at 3 different sites. The mask is depicted as a circle with lines for eyes, nose and mouth. Where the ears should be, there are small hooks pointing upwards, which are sometimes continued as stylized fish or replaced entirely by fish. On top of the circle, the head, sits a triangle with its apex at the top. Small lines radiate from the triangle. At the level of the mouth, flat triangle protrudes from the circle. One look at the mask invites an immediate comparison with a fish. What might the fish have meant? It seems most likely that the fish depictions were intimately connected with the need to find food. The inhabitants of Banpo lived on the Veed River, a tributary of the central course of the Yellow River. There may well have been rites that guaranteed a good catch. Perhaps the masks embody a fish god or a magician priest who prayed for a good catch while masked in fish-like headgear. In contrast to the decorative patterns, the vessels themselves were limited to a small number of different shapes. There were variations on the theme of the bulging pot, guan, the bowl, pen and the amphora, the little bottle, ping. Few examples are quoted here. Large guan vessel belongs to Machang phase, Yangshao culture, dated to end of 3rd millennium BC, having zoomorphic patterns, terracotta and painted after firing. At present is found in the collection of Linden Museum, Stuttgart. Another guan vessel belonging to Yangshao culture is dated to 3rd millennium BC and is also found in the collection of Linden Museum, Stuttgart. Most of the painted pots were funerary urns, and many of these bear representation of cowrie shells, which have been found with sites of Yangshao culture. In many parts of the world, the cowrie has been used as money and worn as an armlet because of the magical properties attributed to it, especially those associated with birth and fertility. This painted pottery culture expanded early eastward to Yangshao, dated to 4000 to 3000 BCE. More slowly, it extended to the west as far as Gansu and Chiangpai provinces from 3500 BCE. Later, Gansu painted pottery sites such as Banshan have yielded astonishing quantities of boldly potted full-blown jars. An example of burial urn, painted pottery, hard finished earthen, Banshan, Gansu, China, Neolithic period, dated to 2200 BCE and at present in the collection of Seattle Art Museum. This urn has vigorous geometricized decoration featuring spirals in red and black, cowrie shells and checkerboard, eye, bird and animal and water wave patterns. The design is confined to the upper portion of the pot, suggesting that it may have been set into the soil for stability. Another example is of 3 guan vessels belonging to Banshan phase, middle of the 3rd millennium BC. It is an earthenware with various painted spiral patterns. At present, it is in the collection of British Museum, London. The Majia Yao culture, also known as Gansu Shanghai phase of the Yangshao culture, was discovered in extensive excavations in the Liuwan region in 1970s. From the long period between 3800 to 2000 BC, richly painted and semi-sculpted pottery from this cultural group were found. Modeled faces on a dark painted ground regard the wear from the sides of their vessels. In fact, the human form plays special role as a decorative motif, both in relief form on the outside of the vessel or as a modeled mask with a painted skeleton body. An example is of a vessel with a decoration in the form of a human face. Belongs to Majia Yao culture. It is an earthenware and at present in the collection of Archaeological Institute, Beijing. Another popular motif is that of a frog or a toad, which in today's myths is associated with the moon. Line ornamentation covers the vessels in waves, while spirals, swirls, serpentine and grid patterns conveys the impression of a graceful rhythmic brush stroke. An example is of a shallow bow bowl with a depiction of a frog, dated to about 3800 to 2000 BC. It is a painted pottery and at present in the collection of Archaeological Institute, Beijing. The Shijiahe culture, dated to about 2400 to 2000 BC, discovered in the present day Hubei, created the finest animal statues that have yet been unearthed at Chinese Neolithic sites. About 5,000 fully formed animal figurines have been found in the Dengi Jiwan, and they were the result of excavating rubbish pits rather than graves. The animals represented are birds, mostly chickens, pets, generally dogs, and game animals, the most common of these being the elephant. Another example is found of an elephant dated to 2400 to 2000 BC, made of loamy clay and is in the collection of Museum of Jingzhou region, Hubei province. Ram is another artifact dated to 2400 to 2000 BC, made up of loamy clay and at present in the Museum of Jingzhou region, Hubei province. A kneeling figure dated to 2400 to 2000 BC is also made up of loamy clay and is also in the collection of Museum of Jingzhou region, Hubei province. The developed phases of these painted pottery cultures included a mixed hunting, herding, farming economy, the manufacturing of jade implements and ornaments, a numbering system, and possibly the beginning of writing, all elements of great significance in the later development of Chinese civilization. The black pottery culture. The Neolithic culture of eastern China, whose earliest remains date from about 4300 BCE, culminated in the black pottery or Longshan culture, which extended from Shandong west to Henan province and has been dated as early as 2700 to 2500 BCE. In Henan, black pottery remains lie above and hence are later than artifacts of the Yangshao painted pottery culture. Unlike the coiled pottery of the older painted pottery culture, much of the black-bodied earthenware that characterized this culture was formed on a slow-turning wheel. The people of black pottery culture also matte implements of bone and stone. Longshan include strange-sided pots, tall stemmed cups and beakers of the type called gu. Black pottery shapes, particularly the beaker vessel gu. An example is of a gu beaker, black pottery, thin biscuit, Weifang, Shedong, China, belonging to Neolithic period Longshan culture circa 2000 BCE, are distinctive and indicate a technique totally different from that used to make Yangshao pottery. The full-bodied painted pots and the coarse utilitarian grey wares of the Yangshao culture were coil-built and then beaten with a paddle to shape and smooth them. For Longshan black wares, the dark clay was shaped on a slow turnable using wood or bamboo cutting tools, allowed to dry leather hard, then burnished and fired to an almost shiny black. Eastern coastal plain cultures. In recent decades, the excavation for the Chinese Bronze Age culture. In recent decades, the excavation for the Chinese Bronze Age culture were thought to be an interaction of the early Yangshao and Longshan cultures. A fully Neolithic culture emerged by about 4000 BCE in the Liaoning area of Manchuria in the northeast and extending through the Shedong Peninsula into Jiangsu province. In the Shanghai area, highly complex jade working can be dated to just after 3000 BCE from imported jade boulders. Large rectangular prisms with cylindrical inner surfaces Kong were carved, then decorated with rectilinear patterns. These were further embellished with engraved interlace spirals and circles, often defining eye, nose, and mouth, masks which were to become major elements in the Shang iconographic vocabulary. Kong prism, jade, Jiangsu, China, Neolithic period, dated to circa 2000 BCE, at present in the Nanjing Museum, is a good example. In all regions of Neolithic China, a class of planar ceramic wares are found in great quantity. Grey earthenware in basic utilitarian shapes such as bowls, urns, and especially the Li tripod. It is an earthenware belonging to Anyang, Henan, China, late Chinese Neolithic type, and at present in the collection of Buffalo Society of Natural Sciences, Buffalo, New York. The stable tripod shape of this Li-looking vessel with its hollow legs and bulbous body would later be used in bronze vessels intended for ritual use. The cord impressed pattern was pressed into the surface before the clay hardened. Three-legged Gui vessel. It is an earthenware and at present in Linden Museum, Stuttgart. The vessel has a handle of two twisted strands. Body of the vessel simply decorated by a band made separately and impressed on the vessel. The most conspicuous characteristics of these cooking vessels is their three legs and in some cases three handles. The reason was probably practical. A three-legged vessel always remains stable even if its legs are not of identical length. Three handles are also extremely practical. When the pot is hung up, they prevent it from overbalancing. Tea pouring vessel is a tripod jug made up of bronze and is at present in the collection of Chinese Institute of social sciences. Besides this, small-scale sculptures in the round have been discovered throughout Neolithic China. Materials include clay, stone, jade, a hard and brittle stone that comes in a variety of exquisite colors and can be polished to a smooth finish, turquoise and bone. One of the most appealing of these sculptures is in Kansas City is a bird made up of jade, belongs to Neolithic period and at present in the Nelson Atkin Museum of Art, Kansas City. A 4-inch long, unpolished jade lump formed very simply following the original shape of the jade pebble with indications of wings and had a circular pit for the eye. A bird was created, very simple, very stylized, yet monumental in appearance. Other such small sculptures depict more imaginary or chimerical creatures. Although archaeological evidence has precluded a neat chronological sequence for Neolithic China, it has also made possible a consensus on relative dates within several centuries in either direction of the pottery produced by China's Neolithic culture. Chronology of Chinese Neolithic culture. 5000 BCE, Banpo, Shaanxi Province, Dawan Kou, Shandong Province, and Hemdu, Shikiang Province, Songze, Zhejiang Province. 4000 BCE, Mia Digao, Majio Gansu Province, and Hongshan. 3000 BCE, Banshan Gansu Province, Longshan or Black Pottery Culture, and Liangshu, Zhejiang Province. 2000 BCE, Machang, Qinghai Province, and 1000 BCE. Thus, all of these cultures and their subgroups contribute to the remarkable. Thus, all of these cultures and their subgroups contributed to the remarkable fusion of technology, iconography, and visual style that formed the art of the Shang dynasty. What catalyzed the epochal changes from Neolithic to Shang was most likely a kind of multiplier effect. In the region of present-day Henan province, the invention of metrology and emerging photography writing system and the emerging photography writing system converged with the whole assemblage of Neolithic capabilities, pounded earthworks, intricate jade working, high and humble ceramics in distinctive Chinese shapes, a growing vocabulary of symbols and ornament including fearsome mask, fish, birds and serpents, and a developed art of divination which prepared the imagination for mastery of these complex and potentially powerful elements invented and developed by Chinese Neolithic culture.